Thanks everybody for coming out, and hopefully this meeting is going to be very productive, and I think everybody's got the right attitude and extending the helping hand and so forth. But why don't we go around the table and everybody introduce themselves. I'm Jim Ferryman. I'm the president of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District. And you are?
Charlene Metoyer, president of the Newport Mesa Unified School District Board of Education.
Dana Black, Newport Mesa Unified School District. I'm the clerk of the board as of December 1st or somewhere in there.
Yeah, right.
Fred Navarro and I work for them.
I'm Bob Uden. I'm vice president of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District.
I'm Liz McNabb. I am the district coordinator for Assemblywoman Cotty Petrie Norris, and I am also the chair of the Costa Mesa Parks and Recreation Commission.
Oh, wow, great.
I'm Scott Carroll, general manager for Costa Mesa Sanitary District.
Art Perry, director of Costa Mesa Sanitary District.
Mike Schaefer, director of Costa Mesa Sanitary District.
Katrina Foley, mayor, Costa Mesa.
John Stevens from the city of Costa Mesa. I'm the mayor pro tem.
Arliss Reynolds, city council in Costa Mesa.
Paul Schoenberger, general manager of Mesa Water. And Jim, I think that this meeting has been productive already. The first 15 minutes here, so watching everybody talk to each other, I thought I was walking into a cocktail.
Absolutely.
Mayor Stephen Swally, vice president, board vice president at Mesa Water.
Sean Dwayne, board president, Mesa Water.
Okay, why don't we get right to it? And Scott, we've got some bills that are being considered by the state, and why don't we start wading through those?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Actually, before you is a handout. These are actually bills that have been signed by the governor that I want to bring to your attention. And if you look at this flyer, there's one number that really sticks out. If you see it, that's 2020. That's next year, and that's when all these laws are implemented. So we're in pretty good. Costa Mesa is in very good shape when it comes to AB 1594 and SB 1383 because of our organic recycling program. The program is doing very well. One of my staff members attended a solid waste forum up in Pomona talking about all these new legislations coming down the pipeline, and the cities are scrambling. They don't know what to do because they're waiting for the last minute to comply with these laws. And because there's not enough composting facilities to handle demand, they really don't know what to do. Fortunately, with our board, they had the vision to implement the organic recycling program, and because of that, we were able to get the lowest possible rate at $71.50 a ton for the organic recycling program. Right now, it's probably running about $100 a ton, and it's going to keep going up as demand goes up. So that's just want to bring that to your attention. These new recycling laws coming down the pipeline here next year, and next year is going to be a big year for recycling.
Is there any requirements for the city to comply with some of these?
Yeah, there's AB 1826 and AB 341, which is on the commercial side, multifamily units. So yes, it complies to all the public agencies. So, which kind of leads me into item number 4, if you don't mind, Mr. President. I can
go ahead.
So as I mentioned, some of these laws do apply to commercial and multifamily. We've heard some residents that are living in multifamily units that aren't technically our customers. They have the bin service. So because they have the bin service, they aren't eligible to a lot of our programs. And so they were concerned about that. So we just want to put it out there to the city. If you're open to that discussion, maybe the city and the sanitary district could work out something where we can manage or take over the multifamily units. So just want to put that out there. If you're interested, we can have a discussion with staff.
Scott, so it's funny you should mention that, because I was just talking with Councilmember Chavez about that, because he has almost exclusively, well, not exclusively, but a high percentage of multifamily in his district. And he said specifically that what he sees as a concern is they don't have the large thing.
It's next on our agenda.
Oh,
I put that on the agenda.
Solid waste study?
No, multifamily recycling collection.
I know, that's what we're on, right?
No, we're on number 3.
No, we're on 4.
We're on 4.
Oh, we have.
Yeah.
Oh, we moved.
We hopped right over that one.
You did AB 1826, and then you started talking, so I thought you were talking about
Yeah. So is that something that you guys could do, even if you don't, even if they have the bin service? Can
Yeah,
you?
we think we can. And my staff can draft a plan. We can probably still implement a program to keep bans, or maybe they go to the cart system. That's something we can look into.
So can we go back, because I didn't know we had moved on. I had a question about 1826.
Yes.
Raja, have we met with our haulers and they're gonna be in compliance with 1826 for now? Is that in the works?
Yes, it's in the works. So we have, this issues that we have in our flow, that we actually work with our haulers to comply with the new laws and regulations.
Okay. And then do we have, going back to number 4, then do we have contracts for a duration of time, or are those contracts indefinite unless a party decides to terminate? I can't remember.
So the way we work is we have franchise haulers, and each apartment association or they work directly with the haulers in contracting these services.
So
and they are required to comply with these.
Okay, so based on what Scott was mentioning, the potential approach could be that we add the sanitary district to one of the options as a hauler. Is that how it would work?
The CR is a franchise hauler.
Okay.
CR, they already are.
Well, no, so I'm confused then. What are you asking?
Well, what we're saying is on the multifamily part, not the commercial side, it's the businesses. We're saying multifamily units where some of the residents aren't part of the program. We would take over that program. We would, rather than like this, they get a bill from the customer. We assess it on the property tax. It'd be basically like one of our customers. So then they can receive all the programs that we have, like our Sharps program, like the large item collection program, all the programs we offer to our residential multifamily. But kids are not.
So that's what I know.
That's a separate discussion.
No, but that's what we're on.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to ask. What's the procedure if we wanted to consider that?
I think
first let's just have a sit down talk. Let's draft the plan and see if we come to an agreement. Then we can present it to.
Right now we give our multifamily or even commercial. They have a choice of and haulers to choose.
Right.
Now, when we go with this program, it will be exclusively with Sand District, so it'll be one hauler.
Okay, so that was my question. Yeah, okay. So it wouldn't be where you could add a person, it would be, or an entity, it would be, they would become exclusive. Now, do you have relationships already with the same franchise haulers, or are they different?
No, what we probably recommend is that if we can, we go up to a bid, go up to bid and do a competitive bid to see who can offer the best service at the best cost for those multi-family units.
So I think what we would want to know is, we would want to have a cost-benefit analysis. We'd also have to, we have a lot of haulers, so, I don't want to be in the middle of a war.
Yeah. Take some time.
Well, that was my question. So then how do you engage with, that's a tremendous number of homeowners in a lot of cases that aren't sanitary district customers currently, that live in HOAs that have smaller streets, they're done in specific plans that don't, that's one of the, getting the trucks in and out of the neighborhood. So how then do you engage with those communities? It's just different.
Yeah, no doubt. It'd be a big task. It's not going to happen overnight. It'll take a lot of meetings, discussions.
I think we should
a lot
at
of
least,
outreach.
discuss and study it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Raja, back to Katrina's question. How long of a program do you have each hauler? Is it 1 year, or is it 5 years?
So these are renewed every year. So we have these haulers for a long time. So these are the same haulers. Very few drop out of this program in the franchise.
Correct.
So we had these haulers for many
And
years.
even though you had them, it could.
But they renew every year.
Every year, so okay, that's the question.
Scott, one last question. So is there a way, even if we don't do the big thing we're talking about here, is there a way that we could kind of have the a la carte service of picking up people's large items and figuring out some way to compensate?
You'd have to work that out with, but we had to work it out with our haulers.
I know, but they're not providing that service.
No, because that program is paid through the rate structure, so our residents are paying for that. So if we offer that to the multifamily, they're not paying for it. So I don't think we can do that. That's why we consider if the multifamily units, if we can work something out, be part of the sanitary districts, that we're we assess their fees, and they're paying into the system, then we can offer this program.
Right. I
So
got it.
my HOA, we already get all those things with our contract with CRI.
Yeah, so each.
I mean,
It's
it's
just
just
individually
Yeah, you
negotiated.
negotiate it right.
Most of the multifamily
Of
are
course.
not HOAs.
Yeah.
Do you have individual carts or do you?
So we have dumpsters.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as the size of the issue here, 60%, I think, of the population in Costa Mesa is renters. So, I mean, while there are homeowner associations that probably have some other arrangements, the majority of residents in this city is, there's, 60% is the number that I've heard. So it's a substantial, issue.
You guys are gonna get me in trouble because I had a meeting scheduled for 10 o'clock with Ware Disposal about this very issue, which we canceled because, and they're gonna think it's because we're trying to.
I know. How timely.
Let them know for you.
On the multifamily, I just want to point out.
I think that's who
You
we
already
have.
have up to 4 units, right?
Yes,
Yes.
we
So
do have
if-
some
if
overhead
the
units.
unit is
We
up
do
to
have
4
some.
units, it's already under the sand district, it's only the larger
We
complex.
do have some associations out
Yeah, yeah, no, of course,
that
yeah,
that are more than 4 units, but our regulation is up to 4
exactly.
units.
You know what might be helpful if we just kind of get a sort of a white sheet on what does the sand district provide for the new council members also, and
Yes.
what do our haulers provide? Where are there opportunities for some change or some better support?
What would the right protocol be for Scott to meet with Rasha?
Yeah.
Get it started,
We'll work on it.
and then you have it
Set
all
up a
ready to
meeting.
bring back to the city council, something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it's not gonna happen before we get a new city manager.
I know.
I don't want to
Yeah.
set up false expectations.
No.
It's gonna take a while.
We got a lot on our plate right now.
Absolutely. Very good. Good stuff.
Okay, can we move along?
Yes.
Solid waste rate study.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we're, the Costa Mesa Sanitary District is embarking on our first solid waste rate increase in 15 years. In fact, we've had 2 rate decreases in 15 years. We hired a consultant to do that study. You have to, when you do a rate increase, comply with Prop 218, you gotta justify, show where the costs are coming from, and what are you spending the money on. So we did hire that consultant. We presented it to the Citizens Advisory Committee a few weeks ago, and the consultant proposed a 5-year rate increase for the next 5 years, an increase. We presented that to the CAC, but they had some concerns about the different sizes of the carts and how it's not fair if someone has a 30-gallon cart paying the same rate as a 90-gallon cart. And the philosophy is correct, and we concur. I mean, it's just like your water bill. You use more water, you're going to pay more, right? Same with trash. You're going to throw away more trash, you should be paying more. The problem is we just don't have we're not very confident in the inventory of our trash carts out there. We don't know where they all are and who has 90 gallons, who has 64 gallons. So we figured if we implement that, it's just going to be a nightmare. So after we heard our comments from the CEC, my staff and I went back and sat down and said, well, let's consider this. So our plan is we're having a town hall meeting on January 30th. Postcards are being mailed out to everyone. It'll be here at 6 o'clock in the evening. And what we're proposing is a rate increase for next fiscal year to go from $18 a month in 1995, which was the original rate before we lowered it a few years ago, so 1995. And then the following year, we're going to no increases, the rate will stabilize. So in those 2 years, we're going to do a cart inventory. We're going to find out, hire some people and go out there and either with our drivers or walk the streets and find out, okay, this address has a 90-gallon cart, this address has a 64-gallon cart. So we're an accurate inventory. Then we'll do another rate study to see if the variable rates we can do those variable rates. And we'll do that again, study in 2 years. So that's the plan right now. Happy to answer any questions you have.
You just have to take that to the board first.
Yes, I mean, there's a ton of public meetings we're having. Like I said, we have a January 30th, we're having our town hall meeting. Then we take it to the board on February 12th for a study session meeting. Then we take it back to the CEC for discussion. We have another town hall meeting on February 26th, so we're getting a ton of public engagement, as much as we can, before the board will finally consider it on May 23rd.
Scott,
Yes.
have you already publicized the January 30th meeting?
It hasn't published, but the postcards have been out.
Oh, okay.
Postcards,
Postcards are out.
yeah. We mailed out to all our customers.
I got it, thank you.
So, just a thought, and I'm sure you guys have run this through, but, so if you're sending out an economic signal that you can save money if you have a smaller trash can, I could see folks just going to smaller trash cans. And, hopefully they're not trying to put 90, cubic feet of trash into a 30 cubic foot trash can with the lids up and the paper's flowing down.
You do that with the big ones now, Paul.
Yeah, but,
Only right after
if we can saturate that or not. So,
We'll have to wait and see, and if that happens, then our code enforcement comes down on them.
And do your costs really go up or do you have to have that truck and you're in front of that person's and you've got the labor regardless? It's the same, it doesn't take them any less time to dump, one small trash can as it does one large.
That's not the issue. The issue is the disposal cost. If you're disposing more trash, it's going to cost us more. So if they go from a 90-gallon to 30-gallon carts, therefore there's less trash being disposed of, therefore our cost should go
That's a
down.
portion of your cost.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think, Paul, I think you're on to what my concern is, and the risk is if many people change to smaller cans and it doesn't affect the trash tonnage, that's part of what we have to understand.
Right. Yeah,
We're
so
very
there's some
limited.
go up and some go down.
So if the trash tonnage doesn't go down, based on what the residence does, we just incur the cost of,
Can I ask a question? Would there, and there probably already is, you would still have sort of your low-income scholarshiping or whatever you call it for people like on fixed incomes. It's $23.40 a year, which seems like no big deal for us, but that might be to somebody on a very, very limited fixed income. $23 is a big deal.
We looked at that, and that was one of the goals the board established for me. The problem is we don't bill our customers directly, so we bill them on the property taxes. So how many property owners are considered low income? That's going to be the challenge. Most of the low incomes are renters. So
Well, no, but a lot of seniors who own their homes and have owned their homes and have very low property taxes, they are, they're living on Social Security, and so they're not selling their homes because they can't go anywhere.
yeah, well, good point. We will. I will tell
I mean, I
my
don't know
board.
how you
I'll tell my board we need further study on it. But based on what our preliminary research was, most of the low incomes were like for water customers who they bill directly to them, and so it's a little bit easier to implement now that because we don't bill directly. It's hard to engage who's considered a low income property owner. So we'd have to do some more study on that.
So maybe you could look into at least having some kind of application process so that,
Sure.
because I could think of, just off the top of my head, 3 seniors that this would probably create a hardship for because they just budget to know they have exactly a certain amount of money every month and they're not moving out of their house because they don't have any place to go. So.
Do you guys have to comply with Prop 218?
Yes.
Prop 218 pretty much says you have to charge the receiver of the service the cost of the service. And so that really doesn't allow for they need help, so we'll just kind of,
Well, I think that's where there's wisdom in the smaller bin. I look at someone like my mom who's alone now. Her amount of trash is like a bag. I mean, she still lives, but to your point, she still lives in a 3,000 square foot house because it's paid for, and it's in a nice place, right?
Exactly, and that's where hopefully the variable rates will come in. So if the seniors are only dumping one bag, then they can get the smaller cart and the smaller and lower rate.
And that's come in. Okay.
We confronted the same issue with water district because we have, turn-off issues with people who can't pay their water bill. And so what we did is we went to share ourselves and we worked out a cooperative arrangement where we can refer somebody who's about to have their water turned off, share ourselves, we'll pick up the cost of the bill so we don't have to turn it off. And so is it through, the community and charity within the community that we resolve the issue without having to violate Prop 218.
Good.
That's great.
Okay, let's move along. Year-end report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just FYI, every year we put together a little booklet of all the accomplishments we made in the past year. So this is for your information of what our achievements were this year. Also, we did another handout is a story that was posted or printed in the California Special Districts magazine. It's about our Citizens Environmental Protection Academy. So it's Gina over here, Gina Ferrano, who wrote the story, did a great job. And if you haven't been to SEPA, I encourage you to sign up. It's a great program where you really get that behind the scenes of where your trash goes. You ever know what happens after you flush toilets? You get to find out. So it's a really successful event, and if you haven't been, I encourage you to attend. So.
I want to compliment you. I came to the State of the District. I learned so much, and I loved your annual report. It was really well done. I loved learning about this Citizens Academy, and I'd like us to figure out a way to push this information out into our community so more people learn about it and get involved. Because I learned so much. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shelter plan.
Okay.
Let me compliment the city. I think you're doing a heck of a job, and it's going to be a tough ball to hang on to, but you're heading in the right direction, and I think everybody is willing to work with you.
Thank you. So.
Thanks.
You want me to take it? I'll take it. Okay. So the Tuesday night, in short, we voted on the emergency temporary shelter. We're calling it a bridge shelter. It'll be at Lighthouse Church, and we chose that location because that is an area that's a hub for the homeless already. We're trying to clean up the neighborhood there. We're trying to restore the character and safety of that neighborhood. And so what better way than to bring everybody inside right there where they're already going to be anyway, because the church was going to continue to provide homeless outreach services. And so no matter what we were doing out away from the church, we're going to continue to have this area that was honestly poorly managed. So we're bringing in a professional operator there. We're going to put some fencing up. We're going to make some improvements to that site. The city is negotiating the contract with them right now because we've got some church-state issues that we have to make sure don't entangle us into problems. And we think that effort, which by the way, we have tasked the staff, and they're doing an amazing job. I want to compliment the staff again. I keep complimenting them. And those who know me know that I don't give gratuitous compliments, so they are doing an excellent job. But we want to get up and running by April. And the reason for that is we're opening our library April 26th. We want to have that whole neighborhood restored. People can come enjoy the new library and feel again like they can use the park. So that's the plan, and I believe we will have that going. Plus it'll give an opportunity for the residents around and the greater community to see, okay, this model that we're going to then use for the permanent shelter, which is a reservation only, everything on site and contained, it will work. That's our goal, to show the community that this model that we intend to employ will work. We're looking at 2 other sites right now, possibly 3, over here, closer to the airport. Seems that that's a preferred area of town. There's no good place in town. I mean, we have something next to everything. We don't have an island where we can put a facility. So we're looking at working with the county possibly at 3115 Red Hill, which is already a county mental health clinic services. Yeah, we've gotten some pushback a little bit there, Mariners, school, parents, but we're gonna have pushback somewhere. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at another building that's for sale. That would be a for lease option. Another building we prefer for sale because we can invest in it. We can maybe possibly have some tenants to help offset the cost of it. Maybe the governor will get us some money. I had some calls yesterday with the governor's office about helping to, he has $200 million in his budget already identified for emergency shelters. So we have an emergency. And so that's our plan. And we have a meeting on Tuesday to meet, I don't know who's going, but I know I'll be there, with the property owner. And this is a fast-moving process. We have to go back to court. We're hoping to get that pushed to February 7th. It's supposed to be February 4th, but that's the day before our city council meeting, so it doesn't really make sense to have it that day. So, but Judge Carter has been working with us. The plaintiffs' attorneys have been working with us. We've pushed a lot in the last couple of weeks, and we're, I think, closer and closer every day to a permanent solution that's going to make the quality of the community better, as well as, you know, save lives, frankly. People are dying out in the streets. It's not good.
You may have heard that we were considering a site on 17th Street, and of course we're not considering that anymore. That was right near Whittier School. So the
that's what I'd heard from.
School board trustees may be interested in this piece. So, you know, we did get a lot of pushback, what you call NIMBY pushback, and I want you to know that we have courage. We can stand up to NIMBY pushback. However, my view on it is I'm looking for the, I can't speak for these two, but I'm looking for the best available alternative. That's my standard. Best available alternative. And for a time, I did, in my heart and my mind, think that that was the best available alternative, notwithstanding that there were some residences around and there was a school some 1,000 feet away and so forth and so on. But we felt like we could manage those issues. When we saw that there were some opportunities popping up over this side of town, it kind of like then the best available alternative kind of fell away. And then we saw some more entanglements, not just complaints from the residents, because we could have managed those. We had a plan for that. But issues involving potential legal challenges that could delay the opening for another 18 months or maybe a couple of years, then it's not really the best available alternative.
We didn't really have negative. We just had what?
Yeah.
Is
Well,
this
and that was
true, or what's happening? Are you?
Yeah.
Are they going to be
Well,
camped?
you're getting all the negative.
Yeah.
Well, I know you are.
We had some negative, but I mean, Councilmember Reynolds, it's in her district, and Mayor Foley especially, and then I tagged along from time to time, went out and spoke to so many residents, and the residents were so appreciative of their outreach and just listening to them and engaging with them, and they did it all last weekend. I was celebrating my birthday last weekend, so I could only go for part of it, but I did go to part of it, and I think that piece of it had been managed, but there was just other stuff that just kept cropping up, and I just, in conscience, couldn't vote for that. But Dana, you bring up an interesting point, is it seems so rushed, right? Because all that stuff was done within 3 days, which was insane. And just a quick 1 minute explanation of that is all this stuff should have been done a long time ago, right? The reason it wasn't done, if we're being candid with each other now, is because of politics.
Right.
Right. It's we didn't have the political will with the last city council to bring this forward. So our strategy was kind of like to lay low in the federal court and hope that Judge Carter didn't see us in the back of the court.
Well, that wasn't our strategy.
No, but I'm saying.
Well, I don't want to get.
No. But I'm just saying the former council. I mean, of which we were a part. And so I take accountability for that, right? So because I was on the council, so. It's a new day. It's a new council, but we also have new deadlines, and those deadlines are very real. And we were able to kind of hide in the back of the courtroom for a while, but we're now, Anaheim has addressed the problem, Santa Ana has addressed the problem, Orange County, everybody, the folks in the northern SPA, we call it, have addressed the problem, and it's our turn, and the spotlight is on us, and there's no more turning away.
Your staff and Dr. Navarro really helped us quail that and just tell them that what the process was. So I think mostly what we are concerned about is if the wrong message gets out, it will spread like wildfire. Right. And then we're in the defense mode. So I think maybe this is great to have this information and have staff share with ours, so that we can at least, because that's the neighborhood, our students there.
Yeah, that's off the table, but there
Right.
is,
But it is nice to let them know it's off the table, but also, what is your plan? It's an amazing plan, you
Right.
know? I mean, it really is, and I believe it's more supported than, you know, than people not in my backyard syndrome. I think, it's great.
One thing that might help is if you all could send a representative, it doesn't have to be a board member, but maybe
Right.
somebody from staff to the sadly, we have a January 30th meeting also. And this is going to be they're calling it open house. I might call it, it's not charrette, but there'll be different stations, and an operator will be there who can give information about how the model intends to work.
That's great.
Self-contained, 24-hour security, half-mile radius sweeps of security zones. I mean, all those kinds of issues will be discussed, and you can have engagement. It's not going to be a meeting where someone's talking at you. There'll be little stations.
Right, no, that's great. I mean, that's
Send
important.
someone, that'd be good, I think, so then you'll get more information.
And one of the things about the permanent plan and the permanent sites that you're going for, people don't realize you live here too. So it's like, I don't necessarily want it in our backyards either. But what you've done is what you've showed to me. You're picking an area that's industrial. The biggest complaint we hear, we can't go to our parks. So if it's not near a park, then it's not as likely to wander off to a park.
Right.
So I think you've taken that, you've heard that message and are acting on it, and it is difficult. We don't have an island. I mean, right in the middle of the airport might be nice because, it's security and everything, but we have to be real, and it's a tough problem. It's not a win-win situation. It's a okay situation.
But I will say, and this is for all the districts here, the problem is only going to become worse if we can't start enforcing our anti-camping ordinance, because as Mayor Pro Tem Stevens mentioned, there's Orange, Fullerton, Tustin, Santa Ana, they're all building their shelters right now. And so this moment those come online, and the Armory is scheduled to close in March, if we can get an approval for a permanent shelter, we can push it to April. But the moment that Armory closes, Santa Ana is not allowing anyone in their shelters who's not a Santa Ana resident. The majority of the Armory residents are not Santa Ana residents. They're coming to us. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true.
It's like a caravan.
And we will not be able to do anything about it.
When you build a fence.
And they're parking, and by the way, one more thing.
Yeah, a wall.
Corona Del Mar High School, just so you know, you probably already know, people are camping in Corona Del Mar High School. Well, look at Costa Mesa High School, huge parking lot.
And the farm there.
Just, maybe perhaps you could expand on the enforcement provisions of it. I think that's the portion there were, perhaps a lot of citizens don't understand, is that there's the carrot and the stick. What do you do with those homeless people who are otherwise predisposed into that similar situation where they will refuse to comply?
Okay, so we have, that's a really good question, and it's a question everyone asks. So we have kind of a 4-step process. The very first step is when our case managers and everyone go out, or when police encounter someone who's homeless and committing a crime, or living in the park or the streets or whatever. Diversion is the first step. They're going to take information, try to find out, did you come from one of these sober living homes? That's where a lot of these people are coming from. Do you have family that we can connect you back with? Are you sick, and do you need recuperative care? We'll hospitalize you. I mean, the first step is going to be diversion, so that they don't have to go in the shelter. If in fact they are individuals who've been evicted from a sober living home, we have the perimeter of the federal court and our codes in Costa Mesa, where we're going to make those sober living home operators pay for the transportation. Now, we have to connect them with family, and our team works very hard. They did 77 connections last year.
Oh, wow.
So it's hard work, but that's our first step. Then, if they're an eligible individual for the shelter, no sex offenders, they have to go through a background check, get cleared before entering the shelter, and they've got all those checked off, then they go in the shelter. If they either cannot go in the shelter because they have federal warrants that don't allow them, or they are an offender, then that's a police matter, and they will have to be taken outside of our area to an appropriate.
We should send them
location.
back to Newport Beach because they actually watch them drop them off.
And then if they're what we're called service resistant, they just refuse to go in the shelter, but they're committing a crime. I mean, the judge is giving us our cops permission to arrest them. So they get arrested. Now they're going to get kicked maybe within a day or two, but they're not going to go back out into the park. If they do, the whole cycle starts over. Eventually, they're going to go to Newport Beach.
Not for long.
There you go. Well, and the other thing too is
because they don't have a shelter.
No, they don't.
Is as we regionally develop a network of shelters, it really helps because the old story always was people are taking their Irvine residents and coming into Costa Mesa, Lair, whatever. As we start to get more and more of these shelters throughout more and more of the cities, and by the end of the year we'll have probably half of the county at least will have them, then there'll be a reciprocal arrangement where if you're from Anaheim and you're in Costa Mesa, we can transport you to the Anaheim shelter. If you're Costa Mesa, but you know what I'm saying, and vice versa. So that way we'll all work together regionally to help the people that are from our cities.
Just one more follow-up, if I may. There is also a perception that by developing this network, that it provides an incentive to increase the homeless population because we provide services for the homeless population. I've had members of the police department and the Costa Mesa Fire Department tell me that they've experienced situations where people on buses came from Iowa and Illinois and places like that where it's too cold to stay outside, and they were specifically dropped in Costa Mesa because we have a reputation of having a good service for homeless. So how would you deflect the criticism?
I've never heard that before from any of our police, and I have pretty good relationships with them. But if that's happening, it's not going to happen anymore because our shelter is going to be Costa Mesa preference, Costa Mesa resident preference. We already have a system whereby we determine whether somebody's a Costa Mesa resident, and we'll continue that. And like John said, that if somebody's from Iowa, then we will be reconnecting them back to Iowa, or we'll be sending them to the county or letting them know this is not, we have anti-camping ordinances here. You can't just hang out on our streets and in our parks. It's not allowed.
The real magnet is, as Katrina said, is the sober living homes.
Yes,
And that could be, there could be some conflation between, that people are coming from Illinois and then people don't know. They're not coming from Illinois to go to SOS.
No.
That's ridiculous.
My question was around the social services we have, which I think are great that we have them, like SOS and other things. I wonder, this is not a quick fix, obviously. This is the first step in a marathon, right? If there hasn't been or will be consideration to almost creating like a bid wherever you land on a building to encourage like a soup kitchen to be adjacent, maybe.
No, because
encourage nonprofits. You don't want to.
No, so what we're doing is we're feeding people in the shelter. We don't need a soup kitchen next door.
Or maybe, not even,
Maybe
that's a bad example, like job placement, other nonprofits.
We're going to have
Encouraging
wraparound
the
services within the self-contained facility. Yeah, that's all part of the plan.
Like
because it's
big box for
everybody, especially if we buy this bit larger building, but everyone will have, every single individual client will have a housing plan because it's a housing first model. So they'll come in, a day or two will pass while they get kind of healthy, I think, sleep, food, medically assessed, clean, stabilized. And then we have case managers assigned to each of them that will, the first thing they'll do is try to find them permanent housing. And then part of that will entail dealing with, helping them with job training, getting their Social Security card, or the little things that we just take for granted that many individuals living on the streets just have let go. So
we do a fabulous job of helping people that want help. Fabulous job.
Yeah, but the piece that we don't have is the shelter piece. So what we have, which is beautiful, that's been developed over many years, and no other city in Orange County has it, is this homeless. Whatever we call it, the neighborhood initiative group or whatever, but it's basically Muriel and Stacy and Mike and then wrapped around with all of the nonprofits for the Network for Homeless Solutions, and that's not going to go away. So that's going to be the hybrid model, and that's going to stay, and we're going to do that, and we're actually adding a head to work on when people get a city employee, when people get housed, to have somebody focus on keeping them housed. But like Katrina said, it's a distinction in kind of the theories about how to deal with homeless shelters. Is it's not like a transformational shelter. It's not like the Orange County Mission, where you have to go in and you have to blow clean. You don't have to blow clean. You could be dirty. It's low barrier. You can't do drugs in the shelter, but you can be drunk and you can be high in the shelter. By the end of the night, you probably won't be anymore. But you know what I'm saying? So it's a low barrier. You don't have to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, and you don't have to go through a 6-month program and get clean and sober and get job training and everything like that to get out of the program. It's low barrier housing first.
The average stay, the operators who we've been interviewing tell us is 100 days on average. Yeah. So, well, the average. Yeah. Because remember, the people that are coming into this shelter, they are the most destitute. Their lives have degraded the most. They have a lot of health, mental health, other kinds of issues that they've got to deal with before they can even think about getting into housing. So the other thing I want to make sure everyone realizes is that, because this addresses the cost issue, is that it is a lot less expensive, half the cost, that's the research, that to do this type of a model of management of our homeless crisis than to do what we're doing now. And you all know best, because it's costing you money to clean up after what's happening on our streets. It's certainly impactful at the school level. It's impactful to our parks, property values. So it's a lot more expensive to just push people around different cities, different parks, different neighborhoods than it is to get them under a roof. And that's why I think we're taking the bull by the horns and courageously moving forward. We're going to have some pushback. We could have the help, whatever you can do to help us. The 2 sites we're really focusing on are, one is on Airway, one is on Red Hill, and there'll be some property owners that'll push back, but it's the right thing to do. And most importantly, if you could help us spread the message that it is going to be self-contained. I know it's hard, just believe us, but that is our commitment and our priority. Self-containment, 24-hour security. We believe that the area where the permanent shelter is and where the temporary shelter is will soon become the safest areas in the whole city of Costa Mesa because of the security measures that we're putting into place. So,
if the city develops maybe message points around that, if you could share them with all of us, that would probably be really helpful.
I was just going to say that.
And then if you could go to our Network for Homeless Solutions site, there's information there, and of course, we all 3 posting. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I was going to build on that. I think this conversation is a good example of how, having a conversation and getting your questions answered on this shelter proposal is so important. I mean, John talked about these meetings we had last weekend. We sat in the living rooms with people who lived, a couple hundred feet from the shelter and convinced a lot of the room because we were able to answer these questions. So as community leaders, we need everyone here to be advocates. So if you have questions or are not bought in, we're happy to have a longer conversation, because if everyone who's in leadership positions is supporting this and can help answer questions, it'll make our job a lot easier.
We have a lot of homeless students in our district, and but we have different designations too on what a homeless family child is.
And this shelter, just thank you for bringing that up, because one of there was a teacher that doesn't work in our district, but she deals with a lot with McKinney-Vento. And so she's asking me all these questions about that. The bottom line is this shelter is not going to be really appropriate for kids. Right. Our job is to place families in another location as soon as possible.
Right. Well, and we're doing everything we can. I mean, we have a whole student division now, in mental health and in our district, and which we felt as, I can't speak for everybody on the board, but I believe staff, we felt that, to be proactive, as and hire the professionals that we need, and now we have interns and that are there. I think it's been very helpful, and plus I think our community is trusting us, our school community.
Well received.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us have the extra time to talk about that.
Yeah. Just one final thing. I think that it's important to communicate, obviously, with people in the neighborhood, everybody who comes into, touches this program, and possibly, we put out a quarterly
Newsletter,
and I know the water district does. Maybe we could incorporate an explanation in that.
That's a really good idea.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, let's move along. Any final questions or comments on that? Library opening, we touched on that. What's the date?
So we're very excited. It's phase 1 of our Lions Park projects. We're opening our 20,000 square foot library in our new 1-acre park, April 26th at 10 a.m. You will all make them.
Yeah, we'd love to have everybody come. Tell your whole boards and.
In phase 2, which will be taking the former Commonwealth Library and we're going to renovate that and turn that into our new community center, and that will open in the spring of next year.
Plus the playground.
And our playground, we're in the planning stage of starting to open. So lots of exciting things going on.
You already put it in the phone. Oh, yeah, I have to.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Gorgeous. So exciting.
City manager search.
So I'll take that one. Just real quickly, we have a search. I don't know how many of you filled out the survey. Thank you. Okay, everybody else, we need to fill out the survey. We did a push out. It's on, I know it's on my Facebook page. It's on the city website. It's on the city Facebook page. We hired a recruiting firm, Ralph Anderson and Associates. And our guy is Lamont. He's amazing. We've been working with him really closely. He's been interviewing stakeholders. How many of you have been interviewed? Anyone? Nobody yet? Okay. He's in the process. So we are putting the brochure together. You should see it soon, today or tomorrow. Next day. Okay, that's Friday. Yeah. So the recruitment is underway, and we're doing a nationwide recruitment. And we hope to have a city manager on board by April. So please fill out the survey. It's really important to us to survey, a broad base of the community to get input on what people want, the skill set, the traits, the personality, the experiences of our next city manager. We hope that this person will be with us for quite a while, and one of my priorities I'll share is that they have a very strong emphasis on technology as an infrastructure need, because sometimes we don't really focus on technology as like the same as we do a pipe or a road, and it is in these days. We have to have technology as an infrastructure.
Also, so we're the three of us are part of this ad hoc committee, it's called. And then we brought on board to help us with that Dave Kiff, who was the city manager of Newport Beach until recently. And so he's been very helpful. But in addition to filling out the survey, in which case you guys will go in with all the people that filled out the survey. I mean, I don't know how many, but if you ever want to just have a cup of coffee with any of the three of us, either individually or collectively, particularly Scott and Paul, I'd love to hear your feedback. And then finally, the only other thing I have to say about it is, you guys travel, you have wide networks. If there's anybody that you see in your network that you think should apply, encourage them to apply, and then let us know that that's a person that you referred into the process.
Okay. Any other comments? Let me ask a question. I read in a paper where you hired some assistant, I don't know what their title was.
We have a constituent services staffing team for the council.
Yeah.
Chief of staff starts Tuesday, the rest start Thursday.
And how do they interact with the city manager, and there was one who was named like chief
Chief of staff.
Yeah, chief of staff. What's the differentiation there? I mean, you know.
So these individuals will be really supporting the constituent outreach and for the council. The city manager is in charge of, you know, all the city and all the employees in the city of Costa Mesa. But what I personally have found, and I think what others will find soon, if they haven't already, and I know John agrees, I mean, the job of city council, certainly the job of mayor, is not what it was 10 years ago. It's an every single day. I've probably put in 100 hours into this job this week, okay? So not everybody has the flexibility to do that. So we need to have some staff to be able to help us to do our jobs, to respond to emails in a timely manner, not on our personal political or policy positions, but the majority of our emails are things like, how do I find out how to fix something?
Right, yeah.
That doesn't require me to be involved because I don't even know the answer. I'm just going to forward it on to somebody at staff. So those are examples. Attending meetings like this and then being a resource so that our acting city manager and our department, or she can go back to her real job, but our department heads, they're not bogged down with follow-up and, you know, the little administrative tasks. They can actually continue to lead their departments and we can get more work done. There needs to be some support for the council to serve the constituents, to get the work done, to do research. We have many research projects that are just languishing because there's nobody to do it. There's a list of about, I don't even know how many it is now. It's up to probably 100 items that the council over the last 3 years has asked for, and they just sit there because there's nobody to do the work. Well, now we're gonna have 3 management aides, part-time people. They don't collect a pension, for those who care about that issue. And then the chief of staff. They'll help us with legislative outreach. We now have a great representative in our state assembly, and her team has been just with us trying to help us on a whole variety of things, and we'll have a point person for that. And there'll be people who can appear if we can't. We have a lot of conflicts with meetings, and they can show up and be there for us.
So it's like the police chief talks frequently about the idea of a force multiplier.
Yeah.
And this is a force multiplier. So traditionally, you know, I've only experienced it for the last 2 years, but, you know, first of all, I know these two here are brimming with ideas about how to improve our community. But what happens is we're all coming up with our ideas, and then now there's 7 of us, like a big monster, and we would jam those into the city manager. Well, now we don't have a city manager, and they get jammed out to the departments, and then God bless, like Raja, he might get hit. He's trying to run his department. You know, and then Raja, am I speaking the truth, right? And then he might get hit with 3 inquiries about a brilliant idea that a city council member had, and then now he's derailed from running his department.
Or even just to respond to something.
Yeah, or any issues. So anyway, if we have kind of somebody who could help and take some of the pressure off of our city manager and our city and our department heads and be more responsive to the community, I think you'll see a lot more stuff getting done and a lot more benefits and a lot more happy faces in Costa Mesa.
And we're trying to create some transparency also. So there'll be times over the last couple of years where we don't know, like the shelter project. We didn't have a clue what was going on until January. So by having a staff member on site at City Hall, the whole council will be better informed, and thereby, you know, everything will be more transparent.
Okay, very good. Thanks for clarifying that. Food waste recycling program.
Well, yeah, we just kind of touched on that. I don't want to take up more time. So I've been approached by a couple of students, and they would love to do a food waste recycling program at school. They want to partner with the they said the city, but I tried to explain the city doesn't run the sanitation district. But they would like to do this at school. They're very inspired to do this. They've noticed there's a lot of food waste. I think we all know, anybody who has been a parent in the schools and been active on campus or been on the school board, there's so much food waste. And so, you know, there's probably 100 apples a day on campus that gets wasted, I would guess.
There's more than that.
Huh?
There's a lot more than
Yeah, so the idea is to create like a little pilot program. And the one school, I think the girl, she goes to, I don't know if she goes to Kaiser, but I can't remember. No, she goes to Davis. But to engage the students and then work with the sand district with your waste recycling. Okay.
There's actually, I was at a presentation a year or so ago. The Solid Waste Association North America's local chapter here works with a couple of school districts in the LA area, and they have a very, very active food waste recycling program. I'm sure our staff can, find that information, but the program that I went to was unbelievable. I mean, even to the point where they had a station where their half carton of milk was poured into a certain bin.
Wow.
And the kids love it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the hauler that was, it wasn't our hauler, but it was one of the haulers in that area that was specifically involved with that program. It'd be really nice to get these students that are asking you guys in touch with SWANA and to see how we
Maybe
can do
we can
that.
have a meeting that's just students
I think that'd be great.
And Maris, maybe you can reach out to St. John the Baptist and they could maybe be part of the little pilot program as a private school option. Because I know there's kids over there probably.
Same with St. Yoakum, probably, we could probably get them all, you know, at least a couple of them.
The other piece of this was related to some restaurants have approached me, and I know Arliss as well, I think, about they're having some kind of official restaurant food recycling program in conjunction with groups like SOS and others. I know that SOS partners with a couple of restaurants, so they're just their supporters, but there's nothing official where we can take some of that food. And since we're going to be opening the shelter, I think if we could start planning something like that, that would help us as well, because we're going to be feeding people every single day.
We actually did a program with Sonora High School, I believe, in '06, where we were dealing with food waste programs. And it was Lisa, Manfredi, was significantly involved.
Davis.
You know, that was the energy from the school side, and then we had staff work with them, and I think we made some improvements. But we have experience with that type of program. The sanitary district does.
A component that's tough with the restaurant program is that you guys have the commercial hauling. So you're going to have to go to all of your 12 franchisees and convince each one of them to provide the bins. I mean, we have the bins for our residents already. And CRNR, I know, would like to partner with restaurants as much as they can, because honestly, that organics recycling thing has become a boon for them. I mean, they're selling more gas, natural gas, back to Southern California Gas than you can imagine. So every one of those franchisees would have to pick up on it.
And I don't know all the logistics, but is there an option where maybe you guys could do the organics and then the hauler could, just as a, because I don't see us being in a situation realistically, they're like, okay, one day, boom, we're changing everything. There's got to be some kind of a opening of doors.
If you're thinking of the school district participating, we are under federal guidelines. So we do have a couple of projects where there are groups that come and pick up the apples and the unopened cartons. They can't take open cartons.
Right.
So there are some federal guidelines about what we can do with that food. Part of the problem for us is not really our kids putting the food in the containers. It's getting the containers picked up, because it has to be taken to a place where it's going to be used, not just disposed. So there are certain guidelines that if, you know, and this is not the first time time that this has come up, and we do have a partnership at our schools. In fact, we don't have plastic straws in our district anymore, and I think you read about it in the paper as to why, because we had a couple of little girls who said, we need to get rid of plastic straws.
That was really great.
So, so kids do have an impact, but we're gonna have to work with our nutrition department and follow whatever federal guidelines are. And there's a general rule that, we're not allowed to just give away taxpayer-funded food unless it goes to a certain need.
So is that, where does it go now?
There's a group that, so we have only a couple sites, I would say more than a handful, that a group will come pick up and take it to either a food pantry or to a place where food is needed. I can't give you the details, but we do have the containers. Kids put all their stuff in there when they don't want it, and mostly it's fruit that gets picked up.
First, the kids are eating their fruit.
So, you don't know how long milk's gonna be good if it's not refrigerated. So, we do have, and I can, and if you want, young girl wants to meet with Dale Ellis from our district, we'd be happy to have Dale go out there. Easy to do that.
But maybe though, as part of the opening of this new shelter, maybe there's a way we can create a partnership with the city and the school district for some of that food.
And that's something Dale can research for us.
So this would be a project for one of our aides. You see?
There you go.
I will tell you that our hauler
You mean an
is
aide,
more
not
than
a Dale, right?
Our hauler is more than anxious to get involved in
Do the research.
the organics part of it. So Scott and I have talked about this a little bit already, and I think we could make it a very, I don't want to say easy, but I think it can be done.
Let's keep talking about it, because I think it's good.
I have an appointment with an attorney, so
Okay.
Watch out.
Hey, you didn't hire me? What's up?
Not your specialty.
Okay.
Okay, let's move along. We got next up is waste haulers, big item
Well,
pickup.
we already kind of covered that. We can take that off.
Yeah, you're right. Resident gym program,
What's that?
YM.
Oh, is this the after school, the midnight basketball?
Oh, I don't know why it's called that. That's not what I called it. I didn't write this, but I was talking about a drop-in gym, not resident. That makes it sound like someone's gonna live there. So
Yeah, it's the new shelter plan.
yeah, take over the gym.
Not
Just
only
real
did they leave
quickly,
fit.
A couple years ago, I had pitched this idea. I'm still trying to see if we can make it happen. Kids ages, say 14 to 18, maybe 19 even in this city, really have no place to go on the weekends and the evenings. And that's safe and sober and where it's fun. So, and doesn't cost money. So the idea was to have our Parks and Recreation staff the gyms at Tewinkle, Costa Mesa, and Estancia for late night basketball, dodgeball, different activities, and then also offer to the coaches on site something similar to what we do with the camp program in the summer, a stipend so that those, they could make some extra money. And then they also know the kids, and maybe have a little snack bar or something. But
Sorry.
that's the idea.
You were saying, I said, like rocks for big kids, boulders. And I'm sorry, but that's what you're thinking, right? We need
Drop in,
places.
play, because they really having, speaking as both a parent and somebody who's around a lot of kids over the years, there's no place for these kids to go.
What hours are you thinking about?
So this would be, so let's say if there's a basketball or a volleyball game that night, you'd have to go after that. But any other time would be, the city has, usually it's like 5 o'clock on. So you would say maybe it would open 6 o'clock to midnight. And that way there's some place for kids to go.
Because I think the school district, when it starts, if they leave at 11, don't your custodians leave at 11?
Yeah.
So if it went till 11, then probably get
Well, that's not gonna work though, because kids are out past 11.
Really?
That's the idea. We wanna keep them in a
Shouldn't be, but
safe
they are.
space that.
I'm just saying, how is something you can negotiate with the school district possibly?
Well, yeah, we'd have to figure out how much it costs, and, so, but the idea is to open it up, because there's a need, and.
Well, the supervision, I mean, my mind's just going crazy right now, so, of the liability and, the cost, and they're out past curfew and whatnot. So, I mean, I see all of that. So, but I think it's something to talk about, to find out what is the real need. Is there a need, are kids really out until midnight?
They're out, trust me.
Yeah. So, well, my kid wouldn't be out. So, and if they were,
that's not realistic. I mean,
yeah.
the kids
Well,
are out.
that's what but that's where I'm going with it. I'm just saying I'm one person. Yeah. So our staff, so for cleaning up the next day and that kind of having things ready, for the student.
This is weekend.
Oh, just on the weekend?
Weekends, Friday and Saturday nights.
We didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that.
I'm sorry. I just, I'm
Friday
thinking.
and Saturday nights.
Yeah.
Can I add, so when I was in...
Yeah, they're not out during the week, though.
Thank you.
I was going to say.
In Boston and Cambridge when I was there for college, excuse me, especially during the winter time when, all of the outdoor recreational opportunities were unavailable, there was all of the schools in the area had a program where in the fall, from late fall to early spring, anyone could rent the gyms, and I think it was like $50 an hour. You would make the gyms would book up fast any night of the week, and you would pay. My group would go and play indoor soccer. A janitor would meet us there, let us in, and he'd show up 2 hours later to let us out. So there are some very hands-off models that have been working. It was extremely popular, pretty low cost.
Into, that's for sure.
Not necessarily suggesting that, but there are models that work and I think are very popular.
And the city has already started a little bit of this, like they had a dodgeball tournament. The problem with, in my opinion, is that it's an organized, you have to sign up. It's, kids just want to go have a place that's safe. There is a whole group of kids in our city who don't want to go to a party and be around a bunch of drinking and pot smoking, and they just want to go play basketball in the gym all night, and we don't have any place for them to go. There's a lot. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. No, I'm fully aware of that. I thought you were talking weeknight. We want them
Friday,
in bed.
Saturday night.
But now I got this, yeah. And
Sorry,
the
that's why I
city
mentioned after the basketball game or the volleyball game
yeah.
Friday night.
No, I gotcha. And I think that's really definitely worth looking into. And I got slammed down twice. We put it on in Newport Beach for a teen center. Perfect place. It's now senior housing. And I was really surprised that it got voted down twice when they're trying to do that. They really don't want. I mean, they know where their kids are, so they think, But it isn't something that because when I was growing up, and I hate that when my mom does that too. When I was young, but we had a place to go, and it was safe, and for exactly the reasons because we have students that don't even use the bathrooms, in their own mind. They're worried that. Somebody's vaping or doing something, so but it's definitely worth looking into, but,
maybe what we can do just is have like I hate to use this term anymore because I got burned before on it, a pilot project, and do it.
Yeah, we don't do pilots.
Do it do it at the downtown. Do it on our real estate and see and have it.
We already have that.
Oh, we have that?
We already have that.
Oh, well, what do I
We're
know?
filling a need that's in the other part of town where we don't have anything.
Oh, okay. We do that Friday and Saturday night?
Soccer, basketball, volleyball. Yeah.
Until midnight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I still got a lot to learn.
You can talk about sports. That's a good idea.
And how's it working, our pilot project?
One that's been going on for 20 years.
See, it's working very well. So we've already done the pilot project. So now we can roll it out to the other gyms. Save that one, right, Paul? I saved that.
Oh, no. So what's our next step here in this regard? I mean, are you going to get together with the school district, or?
Well, maybe Justin can talk to. Who would he talk to?
We're pretty booked in our gyms
On
because
It's on a Friday night.
yeah, they're
Yeah, no, they're not booked after the basketball game.
No, we're
No, but
talking
9 to
about
midnight
outside
is kinda
users.
tough.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That come in after.
Ensign, yeah, no, I
No,
mean,
not we're talking about Costa Mesa High School, Estancia, and Tewinkle.
Right,
They don't
right,
come
but-
in after.
no, but they're booked too.
Arliss and I can just start talking to conversations
Yeah.
in our youth sports meeting, because that's the community right there. We'll sit there and say, yes, we could use those. While it's true
No,
that
that's
those are
not a
the,
youth- this is
that's
no,
organized.
This is not a youth sports.
No.
To be clear, we're not talking about
Groups.
Groups.
No, I know
we-
that. I just
we
thought that
understand
that was a place that Arliss is on the committee, I'm on the committee, and we could at least start some talking.
We don't have a committee.
I thought she signed up for that. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Janet told me that you.
No, it's the old.
No.
It's the old thing.
No,
Whatever.
we don't have, because we don't have a.
Okay, Justin
Not to
goes.
rehash bad
Justin goes.
history, but.
Okay, Justin comes, so that's fine. Alrighty, that was just a suggestion, so we'll do something
Justin,
different.
But I think
it's a
it's
staff
worth it.
level.
We should talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
We'll
not
talk.
trying to shut it down either. I want to be clear. I think I agree.
There's need.
I if there want, and my kids would have loved not to had to go to any kind of
Ms. Charlie,
organized.
If you bring it up at the youth sports, it just opens it up to
No,
being
no,
a
no,
user
no.
group issue.
Well, they're going to think they're going to lose time.
Yes, it does.
Got it.
Okay, we got a course of action there. 401, or 405 project, the city.
So we talked about this before, but now we're seeing some more action on this one. On the back of, so the front part is, there's an update on the project, what's going on. On the back, there is a meeting that's happening tomorrow at Paulino Elementary School, organized by OCTA. So, in a nutshell, what's going on is Fairview Bridge construction is happening very soon. We are going to do some work tomorrow, but tomorrow work in February in preparation for that. So early February, you'll actually see how the condition will be when the bridge, half the bridge goes down. So they will be restriping Fairview to move all the traffic to the this side of Fairview. So that's a major impact. It will be down to 2 lanes each direction for through traffic on the bridge, and there will be only 2 left-hand lanes going to southbound 405 and 73. To go northbound, you need to go to the south coast to make a left and take the Manhattan Highway. So that's going to be that condition for the next 2 years. So until the end of next year, we'll see that.
I know.
Yeah, there is a lot
I know
of
a good
coordination going
realtor.
on. They'll be meeting with the school district, because a lot of, I mentioned to them, all the kids that are on the north side, they have to be, they walk a lot on Fairview or ride a bike. The sidewalk is going to be taken off from the east side. They all have to cross South Coast and cross back later, because of the limited space that is available on the bridge. And then they're working with Mesa Water on relocation of utilities. So there's a lot of activity going on with different districts. And actually we are involved with them on a weekly basis. We are meeting at City Hall, and if any of you interested can attend that meeting. But we think it's a major impact, and we want to be fully informed and aware of what's going on. If there's any other questions?
Does that start at the bridge, or does it start before the bridge?
It starts before the bridge. So as you go towards the bridge on either side, the 3 lanes on Fairview gets narrowed down to 2 lanes in each direction. So once you're on the bridge, it will be the most restricted. Now on top of all this traffic impact, we're going to see construction impact. We will have noise impact and we're trying to, so no
At night.
noisy operation should happen at night. So that's our requirement.
What are the hours? Don't start before saying no noise.
Yeah, I mean, the construction, the big noisy items all have to be done in daytime after 7 a.m. Yeah.
So, Dr. Navarro, could you push out, if they give you a blurb, can you push it out to your all schools, every employee? Because this is gonna impact your employees also.
Yeah.
Because that Fairview is going
It's
to
the
be.
first I heard of it when you told me this morning, so yeah.
It's gonna be, and then there's a, just so you guys know, there's a
Meeting tomorrow morning.
website that, it's an I-405 project, it's a website, there's a Facebook page, and there's a Twitter. And your PIO can maybe retweet from there so that all the school community.
Yeah, no, we'll get it out. We'll get it out.
Text the parents that there's a meeting tomorrow at the school.
Yeah.
You should let them know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they should show up because it's gonna really impact all of us in that area.
Because once it starts, they'll show up.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we could get in your mail, if there could be a communication out to residents through the water and the sand.
We got postcards. I mean, there was one already. We got postcards from that.
Just like you have to keep.
3 or 4 times.
I've been posting, don't take Fairview, and then I go, turn right up Fairview. Have it.
We can still come across the bridge.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be limited.
It'll be limited.
We really try.
I will say they've done a good job with like Google and Waze, having all the closures on there in somewhat real time, so you're not directed to a bridge that doesn't exist. I've been impressed with that.
Yeah, they have partnership with Waze to
Yeah.
use the detours, so they love all the them, so.
Yeah, our staff look at this too.
Yeah.
Well, I live right in the heart of that, and
You're looking forward to
I'm gonna have to move in with one of you.
Just have to come down.
That's no good. Okay, let's, expenditures per capita for Mesa Water.
Yeah, so we're bringing up the rear here, so we'll be quick. But Mesa Water, our real mission is to provide clean, safe, reliable water for our district. And we try to do a very good job of that. We also want to have the water as affordable as possible. So folks that have a lot of means, or folks who we are struggling a little bit, we want to make it as affordable as possible. So that has been another goal of ours, is to be efficient and to have our water affordable. And so this was probably about 9 years ago. We went through an exercise of, well, how can we kind of benchmark ourselves against the other water districts in Orange County as far as, where we are. We think we do a pretty good job. And you would think that, hey, let's look at the rates. Whoever has the lowest rates is probably the most affordable and is doing a good job. It gets very complex because some agencies like ours get most of our revenue from rates, while other agencies maybe get half of their revenue from rates, and then they get a lot from property tax and from fees and things like that. So you get into this big complex data manipulation if you're going to kind of try to go down that route. So at that time, okay, this isn't easy. We said, hey, let's talk to one of our financial advisors, and they came up with kind of a very broad but simple measure of, hey, let's every water district has to report to the state once a year in total how much they spend operating the district. So let's just take those numbers that others report, divided by population, and you'll have expenditures per capita. So, if you're looking for kind of a broad measure, look at expenditures per capita. And so that's what we've done, and we've consistently been in amongst the most affordable water districts in Orange County. So we're very happy about that. We have a lot of new folks here, so we kind of want to spread the word that a lot of our cost cutting and efficiency efforts have been successful. So I just have 2 charts here. The first chart, shows that you can't really just compare rates. And if you look at this first chart, from the bottom up, the blue bar is the percent of total revenue that an agency gets from rates. So you can see that some get 95 or more percent from rates, and others get less than 50% from rates. So you can't just take, that's only part of the picture. You can't take rates and say, well, that's how we're going to compare. But then if you go to the next slide, is the expenditures per capita. So how much did your district spend per capita? And Mesa Water has always looked very good. There are, two other agencies. Agency A is El Toro Water District, and Agency B is Irvine Ranch Water District. And it seems like the three of us are always, jockeying for our number one position there. But, this just confirms a lot of the work we do, and we're proud of our efforts at providing clean, safe, reliable water at an affordable rate. So that's just the message we wanted to get out, and we very much appreciate all of our customers, and we really like this meeting too.
What's Agency I?
Agency I.
Just out of curiosity.
Imagine.
Actually, Agency I believe, is Santa Margarita Water District.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a smaller place, smaller.
That's actually larger than that. Yeah, they're double the size of Mesa Water.
Paul,
The expenditure per capita, the seven figure capital.
That includes everything that you spent. Yes.
how come you don't want to list the name of the agency? Why do you want to name?
We have a version that lists the name,
Makes it political.
Yeah, it's like, because everyone looks to the left and they look to the right, and then they tell Sam, oh, Mesa Water was telling us that you weren't efficient. So for us, it's just, how are we doing? We track this over time. We're kind of looking at Mesa Water.
Not an agency.
How are we doing? We're not telling the
agency.
But you'll show us the names in camera.
No, it's just-
right?
So if I could just add one comment to it.
It's on the internet if you want to see the whole. It's on our website if you want to see the whole report.
Okay.
If I could just add one comment to Paul's remarks, and that is that water quality. Mesa Water District and the Orange County Water District provide over 20,000 water quality tests per year. So it's important for the members of our community to understand that the water is safe to drink from its tap. And especially those who are on the margin of society often don't trust the municipal water source because they come from with a cultural bias against drinking municipal water. But it's very important that that messaging goes out. So we've done a number of public service events, public outreach events to make sure that those who live among us are certain that the water is safe to drink. And the risk is, and what happens is there are water stores in Orange County, and in Costa Mesa particularly, that have nothing but a carbon filter behind the desk, and they mark the water up, or we sell it for $3 for 745 gallons. They're selling it for 25 cents a gallon. So the markup, it's robbery, and it's a poor use of their resources. So at the Water District, we have a water vending machine. There are some members of the community who live in apartments where the indoor plumbing is not well maintained. Sometimes they find water quality, they associate water quality with smell and odor and taste. That has to do with their indoor plumbing, not what we're delivering at the street. So they still want to buy bottled water. We sell it at the district 5 gallons for 5 cents. So we are undermining with intention those who are
Anybody can go, and
It's a water
packed.
vending machine in our, in our parking.
You can see it from the street.
Yeah, it does not matter what time of day I drive up to the district. There's at least one person filling water bottles. And we are almost going to hit, I think this June, we'll hit having sold 300,000 gallons of water from that machine.
I have an update on state legislation, which you guys might be interested in. Have you ever heard of AquaClean, the company AquaClean? They're a Costa Mesa resident. They're a client of mine. So I represented them a number of years ago because they're in all over the United States, and so they actually left California because California had a law that said if you put in one of these units that are basically filtering units, there's a three-day waiting period. And so when you make the sale, and usually it's door to door, and the market is primarily Hispanic demographic that has, like you say, they have a cultural history of distrust of the water. So you go up there, you sell it, and then there was a 3-day waiting period within which to put in the device, but nobody followed that, and So the state has, as of January 1st, has changed that. So now there's still a cooling off period, but where you can kind of cancel the contract, but now they can install within three days, as long as if within the 20-day waiting period they cancel the contract, or it's like less than but within 20 days after cancellation, they have to take it out and put it back. So that's a change in the law as of January 1st.
It's like a reverse osmosis system, or?
I don't know the exact details of it. Yeah.
The downside to a lot of those systems is you end up using 3 to 5 gallons of waste water produced to get a clean gallon. Like if you have reverse osmosis, you can hear it going down your drain. You're putting more water down the drain than you're drinking.
Interesting.
Well, a lot of it takes out the minerals and stuff. It's the hard water type deal, and it helps with your bathtubs and all that stuff. It's actually a good product.
I have a question. What is, I never know what to say to these residents, and I've experienced this myself. So when you fill up your pool, it is, for the first time, or if you have to drain your pool, it is green, like literally green for a week. Do you know why? It's a comment. You should talk to pool operators. They'll tell you.
Is that recent or?
Well, I've had my pool for 10 years, but it happens because I remember when it happened, then it caused me to think, oh, I'm drinking that.
Oh, sure.
So
my suggestion would be that water exposed to the air naturally is going to be exposed to algae. It's going to grow in
it's
water.
not algae. It comes out. It's a weird deal. You should talk to the pool
Yeah,
because because I think it's something that you should be able to answer to residents because those who have a pool.
Usually the questions are, how much is it going to cost to fill my pool?
A lot.
Yeah, that's the question I would ask.
You're building a pool, or you?
I know, you shouldn't have to build it.
Less this week.
Less this week.
Less this week.
We test the samples for color, specifically at the source when we're
Yeah,
pumping
talk to
around it.
Jim.
I'd be very interested.
Yeah, that would be, and it's, sometimes those things are fun answers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's an interesting thing you can talk about and build interest around water.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I have to go, so.
Before you go, I just wanted to let everyone know, I would love to be able to have on a regular basis, Assemblywoman, or all the Assembly and Senate we've invited, but Assemblywoman Patty Norris came, because I think there's things that she can bring back to the Assemblywoman that would, you know, if there's things we need help with.
Super idea. Thanks. I
Thank you all.
wrestled with my grandsons and they hit my front tooth. So I'm going to go see the dentist, you know.
Yes.
I know. Happy New Year, everybody.
I guess I'm going to adjourn the meeting now.
Definitely.